Greetings and konnichiwa, and welcome back to the Onyx Tavern Vlog series on Russia Sentai ToQger. I'm your host, Rick the Barkeep, and today let's talk about station number 35, The Stolen Terminal. Now, this is another one of the good episodes within the series. It is not as deep in character development story as I felt Station 33 was, but my goodness, was it a step up above Station number 34. I mean, it really seems to me that this episode follows the reorientation of the series where they had their clear goals, they had a mission to go ahead and complete straight on. And this is the episode that really should have immediately fallen after station number 33, which again only furthers my idea that Station 34 was an earlier episode that somehow got pushed back later in the series. Because frankly, if Station 33 and 35 had aired side by side in consecutive weeks, I mean, that, again, just two really good stories back to back. And while Station 33 was about basically the ToQger storming a stronghold of the enemy, now we have the reverse of that, which is basically the Shadow Line storming a stronghold of the ToQger. And that's what the whole episode is about, is that due to some unusual change in Zet, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit, they decide now is the perfect time to invade the Rainbow Line, specifically to go ahead and take over the Hyper Resha terminal, which they do. They invade it, take it over, and the ToQger have to go ahead and get it back. And part of getting it back includes combining the power of all 13 Resha together to form basically their Ultra Zord. And only by that can they actually get the terminal back. But, as we've established before, the catch is Schwartz still has the Drill Resha, which is the only way that they can go ahead and accomplish this. So I love how everything is kind of set up here, within basically the first 5 minutes of the episode, is that something's happened to Zet. They invade the terminal and conquer it. The president has to go ahead and flee, and their goal is they have to get back the Drill Resha, and they have to form the Ultra Zord, and they have to confront Swords. All that is established, and it's great. I love the idea because, again, based on what they said in Station 33, this is one of their goals. Get it back, but now they have extra incentive to get the Drill Resha back. So, again, I think where this episode started is a good idea. But, it's not a perfect episode. And really, what episode is? I really can't think of a single episode of Sentai that I would call perfect. Because everything has its flaws. I mean, heck, even Forever Red, which is considered to be most people one of the best episodes of Power Rangers, does have a number of flaws that kind of take you out of it. And of course, Sentai is no exception. But just like here's something about the overall plot that really kind of bothers me. Kind of in the grand scheme, and really this is the kind of thing I think about when I think of these particular stories, because I do like the story where the villain finds the secret stronghold of the good guy, invades it, and basically violates the hero. And what I mean by that is that their secret base is their stronghold where they always felt that they were safe, that nobody could ever get in here and harm them, that as long as they stayed within those four walls, they're going to be completely safe. So even if they're, being defeated on the battlefield, they can always go back here. It's safe. It's nice. It's like the bar in Cheers, basically. And to great effect, you can have it where the villain attacks and again it violates, that safety. But there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And I'll give you guys two examples, one that's right and one that's wrong. The wrong way to do it, I felt, was in the first G.I. Joe movie. And I'm not referring to the cartoon film from the 80s. I'm talking about the first live-action film with a supposed actor by the name of Channing Tatum. Anyway, the problem that I have with that is in that film, about halfway through, maybe a little bit more than halfway through, Cobra attacks the pit, kills off a bunch of characters. I think they steal something in that, and then they're gone. That's basically the plot. I mean, that's what happens. And it's not, we don't have it established that this is their sanctuary in G.I. Joe, that this is the place where they're completely safe. We really don't get that feeling in that particular movie, and I felt it was kind of a misstep because it did feel so soon into the film that happened. If you were talking about doing a film franchise based on this, which I think they probably did, obviously, you really want to do that to your second or third act, as far as first film being first act, second film, so forth, so forth. And I didn't think it was done rather well there. Now, a place I do think it was done well was in the Ninja Turtles movie, the first film. Because in that film, the Turtles had never been to the outside world. They go out there, and as a consequence of their actions going to the outside world, interacting with humans, they lead the enemy to them, violate their home, kidnap Splinter, and then suddenly they're homeless, they're on the run, they have to go to the farm, and they lost their father. There's a lot of dramatic opportunity that's placed in there. Because, of course, the story with Ninja Turtles it was a coming-of-age story about these four children that had to exist and live in the real world without their father. That's what that movie was about. Now, granted, that's not what's happening in this particular episode, but I kind of think it should have, because what I really got upset about is at the end of the episode they actually get the terminal back. They form their Ultrazord and everything is good again, and really there isn't any long-term consequence for the ToQger except for one, which I would call the highlight of the episode, and we'll get to that here in just a second. But I just didn't feel like that they suffered enough. Let me put it to you guys this way. Again, one of the issues I'm having with ToQger's it's supposed to be lighthearted. I get that. But that's kind of one of the issues that I have, is there really seems to be no consequence for our heroes. All the consequences seem to be going to our villains. The consequences of Glitter falling in love with Schwartz, of Schwartz betraying the Emperor, of the Emperor being interested in light as opposed to darkness and all that. All the consequences are played out for our villains and not for our heroes, where they're always in the status quo by the end of the episode, but our villains are always in a different place than where our heroes are. And that's great for the villains, but the villains just aren't that intriguing, say for Zed himself. But he really doesn't have anybody to play off on. But I don't like the idea that our heroes are always kind of in the status quo. Even when they found out their backstories, they're still back to where they are. Nothing has significantly changed for them, which again is been my criticism of this particular season. So what I thought this was going to go ahead and be, since it seemed to be taking another direction, is that they would lose the Hyper Terminal, that they would not be able to get back by the end of the episode, and this would kick off, a multi-story arc or subplot where they're not looking for the Shadow Towns anymore, that they got to start looking for Schwartz, that nobody knows where Schwartz is. They have to go ahead and find the drill so they can take it back. And they have their Megazords, but they have the terminal, and they can take the Hyper Rush on. They can go anywhere. They can start corrupting more. They can use the Megazord against them. That's the kind of stuff I was hoping to go ahead and see, to where our heroes would have to be on the run. And maybe even worse, maybe they get kicked off the Rainbow Line altogether, where they don't even have their Zords, they don't have their trains. Because I thought this would be a good moment to put them in their lowest position. They've always been on those trains, they've always been safe and secure, and everything's worked out fine for them. They haven't had to have that status quo change. But since we're so far from so close to the end, have that status quo changed, and the heroes are on the run. They have to walk everywhere. They have to maybe take an abandoned train car or something, or cargo car in the train yard, because they no longer have access to the Rainbow Line or something. Something dramatic happens, so for the next several episodes, or even up to the end of the series, they're no longer in their comfortable position, and they might have to do things that they're not accustomed to, and they have to be uncomfortable and all that. I think that would have been a great way to go ahead and take the rest of the series and really help change our characters. Now, for whatever reason, they did not go ahead and do that. And again, since we're so close to the end, they might be doing something similar to that, but we just don't really know. But in any case, that's kind of the problem I had with the episode, because there seems to be no lasting consequence for our heroes, again, except for the one exception. Everybody is pretty much the same at the end. They have a new revelation about Glitter still being alive within Zed and how it might be affecting him, but that's still left rather ambiguous, not only for the ToQger, but I think us as the audience. We have a little bit more of what's going on than our heroes, but that's just the nature of where we are in the story because we follow both what the heroes and the villains are doing at the same time. Nevertheless, I just really wish they didn't get the terminal back at the end. I mean, yeah, they got the Ultra Zord, and you know, the ToQger Rainbow, I think is what it's called. I'm not really as impressed with it. I mean, frankly, I got the toy first before I watched it, and you know, the toy is awesome and everything, but you know, I have to go with what Raptor had always said: is that he never liked Ultra Zords that were essentially piles, and he kind of relayed that to the Ultra Zords in Go-Onger and Shinkanger, but I think more here it is a literal pile because they pretty much pile up on each other, and really there's nothing significant about it. I mean, this isn't like the trains become armor for them. They're really treated as batteries in here, much like they did in Zoo Rangers. Like I mean Kyoryuger, excuse me. Much like in Kyoryuger, they're just treated as batteries for their power source and not necessarily for their skills. Because how many times have we actually seen them use the fire extinguisher and the car carrier launcher? But in their Ultra Zord mode, they don't have it. They have its power, but they don't have the ability to actually launch the cars. That's kind of the issue I really have, you know, with the combination itself. But again, you know, again, I just didn't kind of like where they took it, but it is an interesting action piece, and I like the fact that our main villains, the Madam, Baron, and Mork, all get themselves in Megazords, and they do fight against the Rangers. Although here's another thing I'm a little upset about, is that we've established that the villains do have their own Megazords, that they have these trains, but they're so ill-defined that basically they merge three into one using computer graphics, as opposed to doing any type of transformation sequence. It's just kind of like they flow together like the T-1000, as opposed to organically just kind of, you know, combining into something. Like, you know, it would have been great if they actually had released a toy. I think they were coming out with an SH figure art of it, but like where it could actually transform, because something we've always really lacked, I think, in Super Sentai and Power Rangers is an army of Zords that is rival to what our heroes have, our Sentai or our Rangers. And again, this kind of looked like it went that direction, but they seem to quickly abandon that just for more villains. So let's talk about Zet and Glitter, because I'm still not quite sure what their relationship is. We've known for some time that Glitter is still inside of Zet, and whether she's influencing her or not, I'm not quite sure. I mean, it really seems that since he absorbed her, Zed has really been on his ass doing nothing, because how many times have we seen him just in there, sitting in the throne, not really doing anything, and Mork has been the one that's taken over, which of course has caused the friction with all the other characters, because, I mean, Schwartz was the most proactive when he was still part of the villain ensemble before he became an independent, and now that Zed has really decided not to do anything, that you know, responsibilities now fallen to Mork. And of course, it was her idea to invade the terminal. So at least seems like she's got some good ideas here. But again, what's Glitter doing? And, you know, we keep getting this, like, I always thought Sparkle was something of a metaphor that Zed had for the inner light, the inner beauty, the inner goodness, or whatever that's in a person. But it seems to be a physical manifestation based on his dialogue here. He's like, I can't absorb your sparkle, and he tries to absorb right sparkle only to have Glitter basically reject that. So that seems like, I don't know if this is going to play into the end of the series or not, if this is going to be the big MacGuffin or whatever, but something just, it's not well defined, and I hope they redefine, or I hope they define it here shortly so we can kind of get a better idea of what's happening here. And just something on the character of Mork, because I'm going to go ahead and have to say that I think Mork is probably the most despicable of the villains at this point, because I always thought it was Madam basically willing to sacrifice her daughter, which is pretty much what she did. And then, of course, when things go bad, then she kind of like gives up her daughter and is like, "Oh, I wasn't part of it," and that kind of stuff. But Mork keeps referring to Glitter as that unpleasant thing. And that just tells me the way Cloud calls his mother mommy, there's something endearing about that, but the way she refers to this other being, this other person, if you will, that she doesn't value her life, basically. And that to me is despicable. And it's almost worse, or probably is worse than what Madam has been doing. Um, so again, it's just one of those things. It's just kind of like it kind of opens up to who she really is inside, which is just really a despicable person and all that. Um, oh, I think another thing, and I just looking at my notes right here. Another thing that's it was too easy for them to take over the terminal. I want to kind of get back to that just for a second. Because, again, the first episode established that you had to have the Rainbow Pass in order to even get on the train. I'd assume there's a similar precaution for the terminal, but it seemed like they were able to get in really easy, and we have seen villains get on the train before. Again, it's very inconsistent on who can get on the train at what time. It only seems like people can get on and off the train when the story dictates it, which is lazy writing 101, that the rules have to change. I mean, we're not talking about flexible reality like they have in The Simpsons, which I remind you is a comedy show. This is played pretty straight for the most part, so the rules should at least continue to be consistent here. But I also wonder, when they did take over the terminal, I mean, we have not seen anybody in the terminal with the exception of the president, but it's obviously implied there are other people in the terminal, because I find it odd that it's just the president. And of course, as we've talked about, the Galaxy line makes no sense, because what passengers do you have on the Galaxy Loop, basically? So again, we have to question what's going on with the Rainbow Line, because again, my original interpretation was it was a manifestation of the imaginations of the five ToQger, when when we realized it was not that, and it was already this pre-establishing or pre-established construct, maybe, then it makes us question, like, okay, so you have the president, you have the conductor, you have Wagon, and you have Akira, but where the hell is everybody else? Who are the other people? You can't tell me that 4 people, oh, and Lady. You can't tell me 5 people, and Ticket, I guess it would be 6. You can't tell me that a handful of people basically run this entire train line, which not only seems to run across Japan, but possibly around the world and around the damn solar system. So again, I'm not really understanding the Rainbow Line, in this episode really raises those questions back. Oh, and just a funny little bit. I'm sure we'll get an explanation on the nature of the president, the conductor, and the Rainbow Line by the end of the series. I mean, those are questions you just can't leave up there. But I do like how Wright, once again, is questioning the existence of the president based on his head twisting on, coming off, as we've seen, and even in the little segment at the end where he is shown to take his head off and is doing something, even the phone is under the head, that, there's something going on about him. But I also love when he gets on the train and the conductor's trying to say something, trying to, make corrections, whatever. The president pulls him up by an invisible pair of strings, and he reacts to it. So basically, the conductor is the puppet to the president, just like Ticket is the puppet to the conductor. I like that, but I hope it leads somewhere. I hope this tells us something about the conductor, about the relationship with the president, and ultimately the Rainbow Line. Let's see here. Okay, so the best part of the episode is obviously Akira and Schwartz, because at the end of the episode, they get the drill rush shot back, obviously, and in order to do that, Akira had to literally plead to Schwartz about getting the drill rush shot. Says, I want it back, and Schwartz is like, I'll give it to you under this one condition. And I love how this is. I mean, first of all, he gets it back, and Akira is very somber the rest of the episode, basically. He's known that he basically made a deal with the devil. He made this Faustian bargain, whatever it is, like, I'll give you this, but you gotta do this for me. It almost looks like he sold his soul at the end of the episode, and we don't know why, what it is that he promised for Schwartz exactly. It's left as a cliffhanger ending, and I love that, because we don't need to know what it is right now. This is something that can obviously drag on, and could change the character of Akira for us, that he's always in the background moping and all that. I mean, the Akira we saw in episode 34 is not the one we should be seeing from this point forward. This is a more somber character. I mean, obviously, a man with Death Wish is going to be a somber character, but just based on the fact that he feels guilty for what he has done, and he seems to know that he's got to do something really horrible and all that. But I love what I read into it was, and this is the quote that I have. I don't know where this came from. I don't know if I pulled it out of my ass or off the top of my head or whatever and stuff. But man, just think of this and think of a character's character. What are you willing to do to protect those you love? Because that's exactly what Akira has gotten himself into. He has done something horrible to protect the ToQger. What it is, we don't know. Hopefully, he'll have a great payoff and all that. But I just kind of love the idea that that's basically what Akira has done. Is he's sacrificed something, maybe everything, in order to help the ToQger that he has come to care and love, basically. Which could have worked, if that's something you might have done in Station 34, but whatever and all that. I'm trying not to go back to that horrible episode. But it really shows that he's willing to do anything for the ToQger. Maybe because he views himself as an outsider. Maybe because he knows what Shorts is going to ask him is going to result in his death, so he doesn't care anymore. Maybe that's what it is that maybe this is he's promised something which will lead to his death, and now he no longer cares for anything but the ToQger, make sure they are safe before he does whatever it is he needs to go ahead and do. I know there's a lot of speculation on it, but man, was it satisfying at the end that he does this with Schwartz. And Schwartz is basically the quintessential gentleman villain. Because he does acquiesce to the demands of Akira based on his condition. I mean, he was obviously using the drill rest shot for his own benefit, obviously a great weapon against ToQger, but who's more deadly to him more than ToQger? Zet. Zet, Mork, all those are a threat to him. And what I'm assuming he's looking at long term is that he's got to take out Zet first before he can go ahead and take out the ToQger. So, really excited to see where this goes, what this happens. Are they going to go ahead and keep this, a guessing game up until the end of the series? Is this going to be revealed in the next episode? I really hope not. I hope this is something we can continue with to, again, get a better look on what's happening within Akira, what Schwartz's plan is, and hopefully everything will tie up nicely by the end of the series. So I think that's enough discussing it because, again, not a lot of deep character development other than what's going through Akira and all that, but a good action set piece, a good story. I just wish they had extended out and could have changed the status quo a little bit more because, honestly, the status quo is still back to where it is at the end of the series, at the end of this episode, other than Akira. But again, Akira's always kind of been moody, but now he has a legitimate reason to. Well, not that his original wasn't legitimate, but far more legitimate than before. So, next time, we will come back with station number 36. Let's see where they take this and go from there. I'm actually excited now for ToQger. I can't wait to see what happens next. But until next time, I want to thank you for listening. Have a good evening, and the tavern is now closed.